Hi everyone, welcome back to IT Audit with SK, your go-to resource for all things IT auditing plus AI, sticking with the theme of my videos of late. Today we are going to take the output from the previous video where we did a little demo to show how you can build confidence in auditing operating systems at home using your own laptop. So I was just trying to encourage you to have a little think about on your laptop. It'll just give you that little boost in confidence when you then audit on a real or live environment. So we'll be taking the output from that training video. I've sanitized it. I've tweaked it a little bit so that we can demonstrate how you can then use ChatGPT and other Gen AI tools to document and also review work papers, or at least give you an idea of how you can do that with your equivalent ChatGPT. I know many organizations will not allow you to use ChatGPT. They'll have some kind of in-house AI platform which you can use. So hopefully you take those ideas from this video and apply them onto your internal ChatGPT equivalent. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me quickly run you through the different outputs that we're going to use to demonstrate this video. So I've got two data sets. One is clean and the other one is issues. So the idea is we'll use the clean data set, which will most likely have all the configurations we love to see as auditors, right? A clean environment, everything is working well, everything is configured well and in line with best practice. So that's what this clean data set is. I'll quickly open one or two of these files so that you just get an appreciation of what we have. So this is all users output. We've got about 45 accounts. We've got last login dates, password, last set dates, user may change password. So those are some of the enabled as well. So those are some of the columns that we have in this particular data set. So that's one file. And you see most of these will probably be like that. Let's open idle session timeout. It's showing us 15 minutes, which is great. So that's the clean data set. So that's the one we're probably going to start the simulation with. And then we also have the issues dataset. So let's open idle session timeout. We have 0 minutes, not configured. So we already expect to see some issues based on this. So essentially this other or issues dataset, we have some kind of issue in each of these files. And we want to see, let me close this one. Don't save. We want to essentially see if ChatGPT can pick those up, can demonstrate the same professional skepticism that we would normally do if we were testing it manually as well. So this is the file, and those are the values that we can see. Great. Right, so I guess with that being said, let's quickly jump onto ChatGPT, and then we can run through the prompt that I'll use, which I guess we'll go into those details when you get to ChatGPT. Now, I obviously had a little bit more time to prep, so I thought it's also good if I go into a little detail on the prompt that I'm going to use before I paste it into ChatGPT, because it's a bit difficult to scroll and see all the different components that are there. So this is a mega prompt, and I'll try to make all of this available on a link so that you can download and try it out for yourself. So I have said you are my IT audit workpaper assistant and preliminary reviewer. So we are going to test the IT audit workpaper assistant first and then go into the review part second. I've put a couple of context and disclaimer points here. So I've said this is a demo, right? And just setting the constraints so that, ChatGPT doesn't go on a, wild goose chase, giving us all sorts of output here. So I've said this is a demo using evidence collected from a home laptop to simulate Windows or Windows Server control testing. I've said do not assume production settings, domain controls, GPOs. We just wanted to stick to the evidence provided in the packs that I showed you just previously. If something is missing, we've said, right, evidence is not provided. We don't want any sort of hallucinations. We don't want ChatGPT to start replacing information. We don't want any of that. So do not invent outputs or settings. If uncertain, ask a reviewer style question, right? So we want to be prompted to maybe provide output if ChatGPT is not sure. And if you make an inference, label it clearly as an inference. And then the tone as well, upbeat but professional. Output must be audit ready. So that's important. I'll paste the outputs which I showed you before. So this is all of them. And then these are the tasks. Do all. So A, create an evidence register. And we've given it the columns that we want to see in that evidence register. B, control evaluation and the work paper. This is the main deliverable. Draft a complete IT audit work paper titled, we've given it a title, then some supporting information or metadata for that work paper. We wanted to list the system host, the date of testing, who prepared the work paper, who reviewed it, and the method, which is either inspection and reperformance, inspection only, reperformance, and so forth. So that's the other section for that. And then we've listed the controls and scope. So we want a section for each of these: password policy, account lockout policy, audit policy, idle session, similar to what you do anyway in your day-to-day audit, I would assume. And then for each control, we want a control objective, criteria, procedure performed, evidence referenced, results, conclusion, recommendation. So, and lastly, any exceptions and severity, if any. So this probably won't apply for this first data set. We will likely see no exceptions. But for the second data set, when we redo the same process, we're likely to see some exceptions. And probably I'll touch on part 2 as well. When we simulate the review process, I've given it a couple of commands. Act as an IT audit reviewer and provide, say, top 10 red flags, or state no significant red flags noted. I might tweak this a little bit. Maybe instead of red flags, I just want findings based on the evidence that we submit. Any testing gaps or missing evidence in a bullet list. Reviewer questions to the preparer. So I want to see if ChatGPT will flag some reviewer questions. And then overall control rating. Is it strong, moderate, weak, whatever rating that you use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, red, blue, green. You can always tweak this. And then reliability of evidence. So we wanted to identify if outputs could be user edited, need supporting screenshot, need system timestamps, etc. So that's a couple of the areas we'll be looking at in part 2, maybe even in part 1 as well. And then formatting rules. I've given it a couple of formatting rules here as well. Yeah. And then now wait for the evidence. So I'll try to do this step by step by step, and then we can go through the output together. So let's now jump into the actual demo on ChatGPT. Great, so we are now on ChatGPT. Great, so we are now on ChatGPT, and I've just pasted that same mega prompt from, I think, Notepad is what we were using to see it. I've slightly tweaked it because I only want to simulate the clean data for now and then go into the review afterwards. So this is what we probably have for now. So I'm going to just run that and see the results. Great. So firstly, it has said, got it, paste the evidence outputs, the text from each file in any order, and I'll start immediately with section A, evidence register. If you paste them one by one, label each block in the exact file name so I can reference it precisely in the work paper. So I'm going to say I am uploading the complete pack. Right, then just to give it context, I'll quickly find that folder and upload it. That's the clean pack, and then open. I might need to select all minus the readme demo. So when I upload this for you to try it out at home, I guess I've included a little readme demo summary. You don't need to upload that, but this is just for me and for you to remember the constraints of the testing that we're doing now. So I'll just hit open there. I think everything is uploaded. Right, then run. Great, so the analysis has begun. We'll just wait to see what ChatGPT comes up with. So I know the prompt is still, well, running or processing, but already the evidence register is available. We can see everything has been populated in the columns that we wanted. Obviously, I might then say export this to Excel just for easier analysis, but it's created the evidence item, the file or command source, control area, what it shows, key parameters captured. I'm forgetting what the other column was. Let's quickly scroll. We've got what it shows, key parameters captured, and then preliminary result. We have pass, fail, unable. Yeah, unable is interesting. I didn't probably note that one. So we can see for most of these, it's pass, pass, pass. And then for local users and privileged access, we've got pass with follow-up needed for admin membership coverage. We'll see maybe when we get into the actual work paper why it's saying that. We have a fail for the local admin privileged access. Shows which principals are members of local groups, group name, member name, principal type, and fail excessive local administrator membership for demo baseline. So probably check that out and see why it's saying it's a fail. And then lastly, this was for installed updates or hot fixes, unable to conclude, I suppose. So no evidence provided on outstanding or pending updates. So that's the evidence register. I think section B is done as well. So we can see here control evaluation and work paper, the metadata that we asked for, so system and host, date of testing, which is today, prepared by SK, reviewed by no one yet because we haven't done the review aspect of it. Methods used, we've listed here inspection and reperformance, which is fine. And then the scope and approach, we've explicitly mentioned this testing is based only on evidence provided from a home laptop. No assumptions are made about domain, GPU, or enterprise tooling. Just a disclaimer, which is quite handy. Of course, if it was a live situation, your scope would reflect whatever you're testing. And then section 1 or control 1 is around the password policy. We've got the control objective, criteria, we have the procedure performed, we've got evidence referenced, and then the results. So that's all documented. And the conclusion, effective. Recommendations, nothing. Account lookout as well, can see it's done the same thing, effective. Audit policy, I've got a couple of results. It's also said effective. And I won't get into the technicalities of whether it's actually effective or not. But for the purpose of this demo, we are just seeing if ChatGPT can actually spool out a work paper for us based on the evidence that we've uploaded. Idle session timeout, 15, effective. Local users and local admin. We've got specific criteria. So if you remember, this one was a fail, or maybe it needed a bit more investigation. So let's probably look into this one in a bit of detail. Ensure local accounts are appropriate and privileged access is restricted to authorized users only. That's the control objective. The criteria: built-in accounts, disabled unless explicitly required. Local administrator group membership is minimal and includes only named admin accounts required for support. Example, 3 to 5 members for a standalone demo machine. So the criteria that it's using is that there shouldn't be more than 5 administrators for the purposes of this demo. Again, as a disclaimer, on a production environment, there could be many administrators. So if you're going to set a baseline, then you need to appreciate what the baseline is so that in organization that you're auditing. And then procedure performed: review local users export for enabled or disabled accounts, reviewed group memberships to identify members of the administrator's local group, evidence referenced, so that's the evidence that was referenced in that test, results. So from the evidence, it shows built-in accounts appear disabled. So your typical admin guest default account show enables equal to false, right? That's fine. And then administrators group membership, there are 7 members listed. But remember, for the purposes of this demo, our baseline is 5. So now you'd probably need to find out why it's 7. Does it warrant further investigation? So it says conclusion: ineffective based on demo baseline expectation of minimal local account membership, right? Recommendations, which is really good. It's gone on to list reduce local admin members to only required named admins, implement a separate standard user account for daily activity and reserve admin accounts for elevation only, periodically review and reapprove local admin memberships. I think those are pretty solid recommendations. And then preliminary reviewer question: are SK enterprises, so these are all the accounts that are admin accounts, are they intended to be separate admin personas, or are these demo or test accounts? Evidence of approval / need is not provided. So this is essentially now when you go back and you maybe ask your whoever you're auditing, are all of these accounts required? What is the purpose for these? Is there any approval? Whatever the control that they've configured for themselves. So I think this is pretty good actually from ChatGPT. It's a really good simulation that we can see from there. Test 6 was on the patch/update status. So this is on hot fixes. So what we can see, there were some hot fixes. And the list is only showing an installed hotfix list only. Evidence of pending or outstanding update is not provided, which could be either maybe due to limitations in the data that we uploaded or because there were none. So what you would obviously do is find out if this is all, maybe cross-check with Microsoft websites, since we're using data from like a Microsoft operating system perspective. You may want to know if there were actually any known updates or hotfixes that you would expect in the equivalent Microsoft OS that you'll be reviewing. And conclusion says unable to conclude. Installed updates are shown, but update compliance or pending status is not evidence. So you might need something additional to actually assess this test. So section C now, we can see exceptions and severity. So we have 2 exceptions, which I think we've gone through. We've got an exception ID, what the issue is, what the criteria is, which is really good because this is criteria is what should be or what we expect. Could be your benchmark, it could be your baseline, whatever the data that you're using for your criteria to determine that there's been an exception. So that's pretty good. Risk, severity, recommendation, evidence reference. I'm just thinking if in practice, I think if you have like a mega prompt or a what are they called on Copilot agent. If you have an agent, then you can set up all these little conditions. For example, you could include what your severity matrix is, high, medium, low. You could then link it to risk and whatever the risk appetite is and other risk factors and all of that. So there's so much you could probably do just as we go through this simulation, and hopefully for you as well, you can see the limits um, of AI are endless. So we've got the recommendation and evidence reference, which is great. And then final section, it says, well, the next thing it says, if you want, paste or generate one extra evidence item for patch compliance. And I'll flip Control 6 from unable to conclude to clean effective. I think for purposes of what I was doing the demo for, I think we can see that ChatGPT would be quite useful in documentation. I'm just going to say no. Can you output the results above into an Excel workbook with 3 clear tabs for each of the sections above? Yeah, let's see. So that should be pretty straightforward. I should have probably included that in the mega prompt. So we'll just give it a second to think. So I can see it's done. It's taking quite a bit of time today, but so I'm having to like pause the video and then resume. But I think we can see the Excel. It's just probably expanded whilst on ChatGPT itself. So we've got tab A, which is the evidence register. Okay, it's quite slow. I might need to open this in Excel after all. A exceptions log. Okay, so we've got the evidence register, which is fine. When I previously did this, it actually linked to the actual files themselves. So I can see in this case it hasn't done that. So that's probably something you can include in your prompt or make a prompt to make sure that when it then outputs the details into Excel, it links it to all those specific files. So for example, if you then click on device name, it takes you exactly to that. And then you can, do a quick check or contrast. Really useful, especially if you're reviewing. This is the work paper. Again, the formatting could be better. So if you have a template, I think this is another use case. If you have a specific template that you wanted to follow, then you can probably state that you wanted to follow this specific format or template, and then it will output the information. Like, it's not really useful to have everything for passwords in sort of one cell. You might want like multiple columns to show the exact same information. And we'll try to do that, I guess, when we run the same thing with the other data set. So yeah, I think we can see the exceptions log. So I won't dwell too much onto this. This is the Excel. That's fine. So we can conclude, I guess, that we can get ChatGPT to document work papers for us. But I think the key thing is there's quite a lot of customization that needs to go into it, a lot of different aspects that you need to think about: the templates, the format of the evidence, privacy, obviously, privacy considerations, and all those guardrails that we put so that ChatGPT would not then start including information that is not specific to this test. So I guess for purposes of simulating, just creating the work paper, I think it's pretty good. Tell me what you think in the comments. Otherwise, we will close this and redo the same process, but now using the issues data. So I'm probably going to skip through. I'm going to run the prompt, the whole thing, all the way until the review. So we just start off at the review. I might tweak it a little bit so that at least when we open the work paper itself, we can clearly see the output in a better format than what we're seeing right now. So I'll quickly jump into the next section where we test the next set of data. Okay, and we are back again. So I've got the prompt ready. I've made some slight tweaks based on the output that we saw previously. I won't go into them in detail, but when we get to the results, we'll start to see everything that I have changed, right? I think there's just one more that I forgot to say. Well, it's fine. Let's run this and see the output anyway. Right, so I've got the prompt, got it. Paste the output. That's fine. Right. That's fine. I'll quickly upload the issues dataset. Okay, located it here, open, and then I'm going to put everything there minus the demo summary, open. Then I'm going to just send that without any prompt. It's good to test what could happen. That's fine. It's already read the text files. I've seen it's quite quick with the text files, but the CSVs do take a little bit of time for ChatGPT to go through. So let's see what the output is going to be. Okay, so I've started to see some results, so we'll take a look at each section. So the first one is the evidence register, similar to what we could see previously. Right, so I did note for some weird reason ChatGPT couldn't read some of the files, but that's fine. So I mean we can still see the file name, control area, what it shows, key parameters captured, and the preliminary results. So one of the changes I made was on the conclusion bit here. So it says pass, fail, or unable to conclude. I think previously it was just unable. So I've just added more context to make it clearer there. We can see pass and there's the evidence or a link to the evidence, which is also more helpful. And then a couple of tests that I mentioned, the all local users, groups, memberships. It's saying all of these were not evaluated because they're CSV files. So I guess it couldn't convert those. I'll take a look into that and see why that's the case. But I think at least for now, we can probably proceed. Section B is the work paper itself. So one of the changes I made was to split it into two sections. Section 1 is like the work paper metadata. So we've got the system name, date of testing, prepared by, reviewed by, method. So this is much more cleaner and clearer. And then per each control, I've just split it into like lines for the control objective, criteria, procedure performed, evidence, results. It's much more readable now than what it was previously. So that's fine. And we're expecting a couple of issues. So I won't get into these in detail. We can see the conclusion much more clearer. That's fine. I'll quickly move on. So we're expecting a lot of these controls to test just based on the data that I uploaded. A lot of it is designed to simulate the failures, but I'm more interested in the review aspect of this mega prompt. So exceptions, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 exceptions, which is fine. We've got the condition, we've got the criteria, the risk, severity, recommendation, and then the preliminary review, which is what I was more interested in this situation. So some review comments, right? Account lockout is disabled. Threshold is 0. So we can already see from the exceptions log, account lockout is disabled, right? And what would have been really interesting is maybe if I had a work paper that was already populated, and then maybe the person who created it or was doing the documentation might have flagged the account lockout as effective. Then we'll then see if the review from ChatGPT would pick that up, but that's fine. Another red flag, password policy is weak for a baseline. Minimum length is 6, history none, maximum age 365. And then other red flags, and then some gaps, so missing evidence, right? So it's identified that the date and time of evidence collection was not captured in the outputs. Local users, local admin testing, the CSV extracts were provided but not referenced with citable excerpts in this response. Patching status testing, the hotfix list was provided but not referenced with citable excerpts. And then no evidence of log retention, size, or settings. So those are some of the red flags based on the evidence file itself. And then some reviewer questions to the preparer, who is myself in this case. So were their settings intentionally relaxed for the demo, or are they meant to reflect a typical endpoint configurations? So were these settings intentionally relaxed for the demo? That's yes. So obviously I wanted to simulate an environment with a lot of control failures. So that's a question. Can you provide pasted excerpts or screenshots from the CSV outputs showing enabled local accounts and so forth? So there are some tests that we couldn't conclude on because the data wasn't there. So that was, I guess, also intentional, which is fine. And then can you provide OS version and build, which is fine. And then is there any centralized logging? Right. Overall control posture, it said it's weak. Reliability of evidence note. Screenshots showing command execution. So it's saying what else you need to capture. So screenshots showing command execution. Export with file hashes because we want to be sure the files haven't been changed. System timestamps, and so forth. And it says it still wants the all local users or groups installed updates or hotfixes, and then to complete sections 5 and 6. So I guess for purposes of just demonstrating if ChatGPT can review, this is quite okay for me. I'm contemplating maybe whether to use an already completed work paper with deliberate errors, and then we'll also see if ChatGPT can pick that up. But this is quite good. Maybe let's quickly look at the Excel output. So I'll just say no. Export the results above into an Excel format. Let's run that and see. Okay, we've got the export, so let's take a look at that. Right, so I've opened it here, so we can see the evidence register, which is fine. We can still see the same information, the pass fail, unable to conclude, so that's fine. The work paper itself, I think this is a much better format. So section 1, we've got section 2, it won't scroll, interestingly, for some weird reason. Let me quickly enable editing. Okay, so what's happened is it is actually frozen this line 13. That's why, as much as I was scrolling, we couldn't see anything. But we've got section 1, which is the work paper metadata. We've got section 2, and with the control, objective, criteria, procedure, evidence, results, conclusion, recommendations. And that's all fine. And then we've got the exceptions and review. So here I can see the exceptions log, which is okay. And then some reviewer notes as well, which is everything we saw in the previous example. So this is quite good. Obviously, it needs a little tweaking, a little tailoring, and yeah, I'm actually getting ideas just from this demo itself. But this obviously looks much better. So that's how you can iterate and improve on the I guess the mega prompt would be a good place to start. And when you see the output, iterate, change what you want to change, tweak what you want to see. So this is the, I guess, the demo for the review purpose. But I'm actually thinking maybe one more thing I'll do before I end the video. I previously did this and I had a work paper that had deliberate issues in it. So I'll probably upload that one into ChatGPT, and then we can see how it fares with the work paper maybe that's already been documented outside of ChatGPT by someone, and then how it can pick up that review. So let's see in that scenario what the results will be like. Great. So I found a previous work paper that I essentially created using ChatGPT before. So it must have been a good day because the formatting for this one was on point, as you can see. But what I then did was, for purposes of showing the review aspect of ChatGPT, this work paper has been slightly tweaked. So I have seeded a couple of issues so that we can see if ChatGPT can pick up those issues when it does the review. So this is like missing evidence links or a misaligned conclusion for yeah, so we are going to run through that and see what it will get. So quickly run through the tabs so that you just see what it looks like. Here we have a work plan. It's got a step, an area, control, test procedure, expected evidence, evidence collected, the file path name, results, whether it's pass or fail, and then conclusion, risk note, and then a column for reviewer notes, which is all blank at the moment. But if I can quickly show you one of the seeded issues here, you can see in cell F2, let me highlight it so you can see it. We can see there's evidence that has been collected, right? Or expected evidence, but we actually have nothing from the evidence, but this fictitious person has gone on to pass the control and said the control is effective. So we would be interested in knowing how they arrived to this conclusion without the actual supporting evidence. So that's one of the issues that we'll find in here. Let me quickly move on to the next tab as well. With the evidence index or register, before I think we called it register in the earlier demo. So there are a couple of notes here, deliberately marked as not provided. So provided here, we've said no. Again, we want to see if ChatGPT will pick that up. Then here we are again deliberately marking evidence as not received. We want to see if ChatGPT is going to pick this up as well. So here again, if you see the last line item, it's blank in the folder. So we are going to see if this is again something that ChatGPT will pick up. So there are a lot of similar seeded issues within this file. We essentially want to see if all of them will be picked up, right? Findings. So this person has said no issues are noted, but if we go to the evidence snippets, it just highlights some of the areas where, again, It's been deliberately edited so that we can get issues. For example, here, password history length is 0, lockout duration 0, minimum password length 6, password age unlimited, idle session timeout, there's nothing was found. And if you remember from my other video, this can happen, especially maybe if you're doing it through PowerShell. But if you go and you actually search in, I've forgotten one of the windows that we looked at, you'll be able to see what the idle session timeout is. Couple of reasons why that could happen. Maybe you don't have the right access level to view it. Maybe it's a default setting. It's by default it's already set to 15 depending on what type of operating system it is. Is it on a workstation? Is it a computer on an Active Directory and so forth? So I mean, we demonstrated this in the previous video, so you can watch that. And then see security log config, but again it's intentionally missing, right? So no findings and some references there, which is interesting. So maybe this is more like their basis for concluding there are no issues. So they've included some Microsoft Learn references. So that's the file that we are going to upload onto ChatGPT. In terms of the commands that we're going to use, let me quickly show you those as well. So these are some of the prompts that we're going to use. Number one, this will be in reviewer mode. So we're going to tell it again, act as an IT audit reviewer, review this work paper for missing evidence, conclusions that do not align to evidence, security settings that are not consistent with best practice, and then return a bullet list of issues and suggested edits and any missing evidence requests. And then next we've got prompt 2, check whether the work paper fully covers those sections. And then prompt 3, rewrite the conclusions and findings to be evidence-based and flag vague language or any statements that are not supported by evidence. So those are some of the prompts we're going to play around with. Right, let's jump onto ChatGPT. Okay, so I have decided to tweak the prompt a little bit so that it doesn't go looking for maybe the evidence files. I just wanted to focus on this work paper and what's in it only. So I've said act as an IT audit reviewer. Review this paper for missing evidence, unclear logic, conclusions that don't match results, weak risk lineage or linkage, and return a bullet list of issues and a written conclusion paragraph. So let's see what this is going to give us. Right, so I'd already uploaded the work paper. Okay, so it's going through it. So let's give it some minutes to do that. Okay, so the results are in and review issues. So this is what ChatGPT has picked up as the IT audit reviewer, missing evidence, which is in line with what we could see in the work paper itself. So idle session timeout, in the work plan, the result is pass or effective, but there were actually no idle session timeout results, and we could see that. C2 event log config, again, in the work plan, we have it as pass or effective, but the evidence index was showing something else, so or it was intentionally missing. So what was the basis for that? Password policy, we could see evidence marked as collected, but there's actually none, and the step was still marked as pass. And then period under review on the cover, this one I didn't even pick up myself, but the period under review on the cover sheet was blank. So obviously we need to populate that. That's a really good one that ChatGPT picked up. We also have another criteria, which is unclear logic or testing criteria. So would it be worth doing a side by side actually? Then we can do like a comparison. I think so. Or let's run through these and then ask ChatGPT, I guess, to highlight in the work paper itself, produce the output, and then we can see it from there. So unclear logic, we've got conclusions that don't match results. We've got a weak risk linkage, so missing logging configuration evidence is entitled detection. Overall conclusion doesn't distinguish between controls tested and passed versus controls not testable due to missing or failed evidence. So all good observations. Right, so we also asked for a rewritten conclusion paragraph. So we've got that there, which is quite helpful. I'm going to try and push it a little bit here and say, can you highlight the review areas? Okay, so in the work paper, highlight the review areas noted above. I will need this ready to view in Excel. Let's just see what the results are going to be. Because I suppose it wouldn't be helpful for like ChatGPT to just review it. We would want to see the actual review in the work paper, right? I think that would be really, really helpful. It's streaming interrupted, waiting for complete message, right? We'll give it some time to get us the output. Okay, so I think we've got a file there. I'm tempted to, let's open it, see if it behaves, but if not, we'll download it. Right, so this is quite useful. There is a legend here. So red field, there's a review issue. Yellow field, there's an evidence gap or flag, and then blue comment reviewer guidance. Okay, sheets impacted, cover summary, work plan, evidence index, evidence snippets, and findings. That's the first tab. Let's see the next one, right? So cover summary, period under review is blank, so this will need to be populated. Overall conclusion, effective, I guess this is being flagged because we've seen there are issues, but the overall conclusion is effective, which cannot be possible given the issues that have already been noted. So this will need to be updated as well. In the work plan, I guess like I previously showed you, there were sections that were blank in terms of evidence collected, but we went on, or the preparer went on to pass the controls and say the conclusion is effective. So there we go. I guess just thinking of the prompt that I used, because I can see this reviewer notes column, I could have been more explicit to say include a summary in the reviewer notes column of why these are highlighted, but that's the tweaking I'm always talking about. We can see here idle session, it's a pass, but we know from the evidence snippet that there was no setting. So we would then want to ask the preparer how they arrived at this conclusion. Was there another one? I think this was to do with a file naming mismatch. I guess again we've said this, it's passed and it's effective, but we only have one file and not all the three files that we need to perform the testing. So I guess the question would be again, how did the preparer arrive at that conclusion? So that's the work plan. Let's look at the evidence index. We already know about these because we had notes around them being deliberately marked for the review. I suppose I could have removed this information and we should have seen ChatGPT flagging this anyway. So that should be fine. These were areas where we were saying evidence has not been provided, and we know compounded with the work plan where we have said these are effective, those controls relying on that evidence then would need the preparer to support that or find additional evidence. Let's see on evidence snippets again. This is, let me see the review of flags again. Evidence gap or flag. So yellow, that's what yellow is for. So all three of these, there is some kind of evidence that's missing, or there's a gap in the evidence that we have. Findings wise, again, we said no issue noted, but the password policy is one of the controls that appears to be ineffective, and the reference tab, nothing was flagged there. So it looks like ChatGPT could do a pretty good job provided you're providing all the right prompts, all the relevant information that's needed, and so forth. So that's a quick demo, and hopefully you can see, I guess, as we conclude, that you can use ChatGPT and all the ChatGPT equivalents to document work papers and to also review work papers. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this training. If you have anything else you want to see, especially in the space of AI and how it coincides with auditing, IT auditing specifically, then do hit me up in the comments. Let me know, and I'll try my best to get a video up for that. Thank you for the support, and see you in the next video.